Peace and blessings, everyone. Peace and blessings. Welcome to another edition of Frontline News, where we bring you news and conversations from around urban America and beyond. And I'm waiting on one of our co-hosts to join us this evening. But while I'm waiting on her to join us, again, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great start to their week. Just to start things off, I got to say, long live the spirit of the Million Man March. And I had an opportunity today to speak on a radio show and tell folks what the Million Man March meant to me. And I want to share some of that really quick while we get started here. Exactly what the Million Man March means to me. So I didn't get a chance to go. I had to work that day, but I was fortunate to be in front of a TV, and I watched every hour of the Million Man March. So I like to say I was there in spirit, but I wish I could have went because I would have loved to been around just so many beautiful black and brown people. And then on top of everything else, I mean, they had no issues that day. As far as we know, there were no issues, no violence, no nothing that day. Just brothers, just brothers coming from all over the country in all different shades of brownness to just basically come together. And to hear just a powerful message from the Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. And so I wanted to just kind of share really quick because there was a 8-step base of instructions that were kind of given in reference to understanding atonement. And I wanted to go through that really quick. Matter of fact, I should bring up I am going to do that while I'm waiting on Yolanda to come on. I'm going to bring up that whole atonement thing. I could bring that up and actually play that for you really quick off of my Facebook. So hold on one second. I'll pull that up. But again, it was just such a beautiful event back in 1995 for, just everyone coming from all over the country, to come and be within the spirit of the Million Man March. So give me 1 second, and I think our co-host is coming on. So I want to bring this up really quick, and then we will talk about it. So there she is right there. Good evening, my queen. Good evening, my sister. And I was just starting to show up really quick just by saying, long live the spirit of the Million Man March. I didn't get a chance to go, but I really base a lot of my changes in my life based on the 8 steps that was given to us by Minister Farrakhan. If you have a second, I'm going to play that really quick for everyone. For those who may not have remembered the 8 steps, I'm going to play that real quick so everyone can see that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring that up right now. So this was the 8 steps to atonement that Minister Farrakhan was kind of giving out as instructions at the time. I'm going to head share the screen here. Hopefully everyone can see this. And we're going to play the message right now for you.
Well, some of us are here because it's history making. Some of us are here because it's a march through which we can express anger and rage with America for what she has and is doing to us. So we're here for many reasons, but the basic reason that this was called was for atonement and reconciliation. So it is necessary for me, in as short a time as possible, to give as full an explanation of atonement as possible. As I said earlier, atonement is the 5th stage in an 8-stage process. So let's go back to the first stage of the process that brings us into perfect union with God. And the first stage is the most difficult of all, because when we are wrong and we are not aware of it, someone has to point out the wrong. Yes. I want to say this again, but I want to say it slowly, and I really want each one of these points to sink in. How many of us in this audience at some time or another have been wrong? Would we just raise our hands? Okay. Now, when we are wrong, Lord knows we want to be right. The most difficult thing is when somebody points it out. Do we accept it? Do we reject it? Do we hate the person who pointed out our wrong? How do we treat the person who points out our wrong? Now, I want you to follow me. When you go to a doctor, you're not feeling well. The doctor says, "What's wrong?" "Well, I don't know, doc." "Well, where's the pain? Tell me something about the symptoms." You want the doctor to make a correct diagnosis. You don't smack the doctor when he points out what's wrong. You don't hate the doctor when he points out what's wrong. You say, "Thank you, doctor. What's my prescription for healing?"
Go ahead, paint the picture. Go ahead.
We all right?
Yes.
Now look, whoever is entrusted with the task of pointing out wrong, depending on the nature of the circumstances, is not always loved. In fact, more than likely, that person is going to be hated and misunderstood. Such persons are generally hated because no one wants to be shown as being wrong, particularly when you're dealing with governments, with principalities, with powers, with rulers, with administrations. When you're dealing with forces which have become entrenched in their evil, intractable, and unyielding, their power produces an arrogance, and their arrogance produces a blindness. And out of that evil state of mind, they will do all manner of evil to the person who points out their wrong, even though you're doing good for them by pointing out where America went wrong.
So, Yolanda, powerful message from Minister Farrakhan, and so relevant for today. I mean, just especially we're coming up on an election season, and he talks about, the government and the powers to be, committing the wrongs, and not even being able to do the first step of an 8-step atonement. And that's to even just acknowledge that they were wrong. I mean, what you think about that, my sister?
I mean, from back then to now, and I think that, what he said still holds true. What he said made sense then, and it makes sense now, but no one seems to want to follow the fact that they are wrong. And that's the problem that we have. We have and have had leadership that do not want to admit when they're wrong. So they never paid atonement, and they don't know how to pay atonement. Like, everybody was into the Million Man March when it was a thing. What happened to the thing? What happened to the trend? Why is it still not trending? I don't know what to say about our black people at this point, because we're still doing the same thing over and over again. And I'm not even going to say expecting a different. We're expecting the same result. So, and we keep doing the same thing over and over again, and we know what we're going to get. Why complain?
Mm,
Why?
mm. It's interesting that you say that we're doing the same things over and over again. That's what was really tasked to us during the whole Million Man March movement, was to try to find ways to acknowledge the wrong. That was the first step. The second one, well, I'm sorry, someone must point out the wrong. That's the first step. The second step is to acknowledge the wrong. The third step is to confess the fault. So you have to confess that there was a fault. The fourth step is repentance. So whoever is responsible for the fault and the wrong is supposed to then understand that they must repent. They must have a feeling of remorse or contrition, or shame for the
But
past
people can't
conduct.
admit something that they don't feel that they did wrong. In order to heal it, you have to feel it. And unfortunately, they don't. They have never felt it. That's why they feel like they haven't done anything. They haven't done anything wrong. But see, my thing is, how can we expect for black people or white people to pay atonement when we can't do it ourselves?
Mm, mm,
How can we expect to say, you know what, I'm gonna forgive and I'm gonna do this, that, and the third, if we can't even get our own black leadership to do it themselves? And then you wonder why we keep the bottom of the barrel mentality. We're the dumpster juice. That's
mm,
why
mm.
they'll
And you
never
said,
recognize they're wrong because they're
I
following
ain't
the
no
same
dumpster
blueprint.
juice. I ain't no dumpster juice. So
Well, that's the way they look at us.
I'm gonna have to give you the button for this one.
Well, you can give me whatever button you want, but that's how they look at us. We're not even bubblegum on the whole bottom of a pro wing or on an unnamed brand shoe anymore. We're just the dumpster juice. Matter of fact, they don't even pick our trash up respectfully. We can't even get our trash picked up. So what does that tell you, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah, you know what?
um,
We ain't need dumpster juice. We just the trash that's still sitting there. We ain't even made it to dumpster juice yet because nobody even dumped us.
can I hit that? I don't know if I lost you.
Huh? Can you hear me?
For some reason, I've lost you. What about now?
Huh? What'd you say?
Hold on here.
Jason? Am I frozen?
No, I can hear you. No, now I can hear you. Okay. So, yep. So I apologize for that, family. But yeah,
Jason?
yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, are you freezing? What's going on?
No, 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 no. I was having some difficulties with the audio on my end, but I'm good. I'm good. But it's interesting again how relevant this was back in 1995 till now, and I keep trying to tell folks, even on my own radio show, on our radio show, Patrick, on our podcast, we keep explaining to folks that we're doing some deep diving here, and we're looking at the history of Baltimore, and I keep telling folks that even since these radical English Christians, first stepped on the soil of St. Mary's County, Lord Baltimore, um, that the fix was in, that this whole radical English Christian movement was never about including Black, brown, or even indigenous people, and that history continued, throughout the development of the government, the development of the state government, the city government. Someone told me just recently that one of the mayors of Baltimore City actually wanted to ensure that Black folks couldn't be a homeowner in Baltimore City. That they actually tried to pass a piece of legislation, that stipulated that Black folks wasn't able to own land here in Baltimore City. And then what ended up happening was, even though city council defeated that bill, you still had neighborhoods that went and committed illegal covenances. You had mortgage companies that
But
wouldn't,
it still rings
give
true
out
till
loans.
today. They still
Correct.
find
So
a way. They just took it out of one. They just took it out of one system and say, "Well, no, we can't do this." But hey, let's get them another way. Let's create these false narratives of these credit scores. Let's make it the credit so high, the credit score so high that these black people can't get in. Oh, wait a minute. Let's say that they can't make over. They got to make over a certain amount of money at a job. What difference does it make how much I make? If I can pay the rent, I damn sure can pay the mortgage.
You put these down for the drum.
and that's what you see. You see a lot of families that are struggling, especially during this time in Baltimore City. You see families that are sometimes joined up together in one household that are paying, anywhere from $1,200. I mean, we've heard as high as $1,900 a month rent. So obviously, we don't have look. Although we do have an issue and a wave of folks that are homeless, don't get me wrong, because we do have a large homeless population. But we don't see a lot of folks out there that are homeless that because they're struggling to pay that $1,200 to $1,900 a month rent. So there are people that are responsible enough. They may not necessarily be doing it 100%, on time, and they may have some issues, with, actually paying their utilities, and they may pay the rent, but then the gas and electric gets turned off. So there's people out there that are struggling to make these payments. So why not, in some cases, transition them and move them over to being homeowners, where we better value what we own as opposed to what we rent?
Because Jason, just like you said, that these things was created back in the day to keep black people from owning a house, and they still found a way to keep us from owning a house. Unfortunately, we have never had leadership that was willing to stand up and say, you know what? We got to do something. We got to do something different. We got to make sure more black people own houses to secure neighborhoods, to make sure neighborhoods have the respect, because people respect what they own versus what they rent.
Correct. I say that all the time. Now, speaking on this in reference to the mortgages and stuff like that, there was something that I really wanted to point out to folks. I'm trying to see if I can load it up now. Just give me a second here.
I want you to play one of those black videos of one of those short stories one day. I want you to play one of them because I don't think we have enough time. It might be like 19 minutes long or something like 20 minutes long. Or one of those short ones when we talking about the history of Baltimore. Let them see what we're seeing. And unfortunately, you're going to always get a Yolanda that's an angry black woman, because we know what they did to us and we know what our leadership has done to us. So if you're okay with what's going on, I'm not. I'm going to be that angry black woman because I feel like we deserve better. I know that we deserve better. And I know they have not been giving it to us. I don't care how many people go around and say, oh, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And look at their campaign donation list. And that'll go to show you why these people are lying to you on purpose. They will do anything to get that evil seat. Anything to get it.
But
so what do we do with that?
Well, that's a good question, because again, Minister Farrakhan talked about government and what government was doing and how they don't acknowledge the wrong, and how even when somebody points out the wrong, they still don't acknowledge the wrong. Is it necessarily the seat that is the issue, or is it the people that we empower to take control of the seat? It's just like, one of our favorite movies, Yolanda, is Games of Thrones, right? We love that. But with the responsible person that sits on that throne, you can, take care of a nation. You can make sure that a nation is ruled with respect and dignity. But, you get that one person that sits on that throne, and they become this savage ruler, that kills people and maims people and, brutalizes.
It totally changes them. You're absolutely correct. So, they know with that seat becomes a position of power. And with power, comes the position where you could either empower people, like the raw thing that we was talking about earlier. Either you can breathe life into these people, or you could be their total demise with that seat. You can be the life of people, or you can be the death of people for that with that seat. They know this.
Right, right. But again, is that necessarily the seat issue? It's almost kind of like another one of my favorite movies, Lords of the Ring. It's like the guy that wanted the ring. Once you put the ring on, you become this evil possessed person. Is it again? Is it the seat, the position, the power that becomes tainted, or is it the person that holds the power that becomes tainted? Because again, I think that if we had the right leadership in these roles, it doesn't matter who wears the ring, as long as they are about the people, as long as they are about not the special interest groups, they can rule and be a mayor or be a governor or be whoever or be a city council member that again is not of that evil, is not of that, looking at, doing things that are wrong, the back dealing deals, the backdoor deals, and the smoky room with the scotch deals, and and taking money. I mean, you had the arrogance, and I hate to point it out because I really admired this person, but you had one particular delegate that when she was asked, you know, how do you get bills passed? How do you get things, done, in Annapolis? And she said, well, one, you got to know Jesus and you got to know me. Like, the arrogance. It's like,
But
it's like,
Jason, that's all our leadership at this point.
right, right.
Just like I said, and the answer to your question is all of the above. All of the above. Because that seat is what changes the person. Because the purse strings, you hold all the power and all the money to the city, to whatever you're running for. So yes, it's all of the above. It's the position of power and money and the seat tend to change people dramatically, especially if you have never been in leadership before. If you have never sat at the top of anything, not even class president, then you know that you could easily be turned.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in leadership my whole life. I can be turned. Can I, Jason?
I mean, I haven't seen a weak bone in you yet, so I can honestly say that. I don't think that you're a person that can be bought, and I think that you're the type of person that if something was against our people, that you would be one of the first to scream it from the mountaintops. So that's the Yolanda that I've become to know, and I'm glad in some cases that you've had the opportunity to know me as well, because there's a lot of people like I've been accused of being a part of the grant chasing task force and all kinds of stuff, and I'm glad that I keep saying that there's no coincidental meetings. I believe that everything is divine.
I'm Jason. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, yeah,
There's two things I find horribly wrong with that saying. I mean, what they said. One, you got the ones that's talking about you chasing grants that receive grants.
right, right,
that
right,
that doesn't even make sense. And
right,
two,
right,
isn't that what grant writers are for? Isn't that what people pay grant writers for? That's still a job at the end of the day, and
right,
that's their job is to chase grants. Our
right.
job our job is basically to chase grants too. We just don't do it because we know what it comes with.
Mm-hmm.
If we could get grants and it didn't come with, because it's not like none of this weird stuff that they have tied to a grant is actually supposed to be going on. And I know somewhere along the lines that is some type of ethic violations. You're not supposed to use that to support or endorse a candidate. You cannot do that. That's why they restricted nonprofit organizations on how on the money or the support that they can give a candidate.
Right.
And people still do it, and they use it. Oh, I can't speak out against such and such because we get city money. What you're failing to realize is that city money that you're receiving is all our money in a pot that they get to divvy out from our taxes. So who would you rather side with?
Yeah, yeah. So we were talking about the inequities and how this city has never seemed to
Uh-huh.
address the inequities, even including, we watched a documentary just recently, and we know that there's been some federal policies that have come out recently, But we watched a documentary just recently, where they were talking about how these predatory loans and how the federal government was responsible. Um, uh, uh, President Roosevelt, we were coming out of the Great Depression, and the mortgages had stagnated, so the mortgages weren't being issued. And what the federal government did was they issued an insurance to go with these mortgages so that they would start pushing mortgages back out into the communities again. But one of the things that ended up happening with that federal policy and these guaranteed insurance policies that went with the mortgages was that they created this atmosphere of, that you can't lend to certain people that would be considered to be basically uncredit worthy, and we were looked at as uncredit worthy. And in many cases, these loans, as the economy started to kick back in again, these loans that were being insured by the federal government were only going to white people. And we see that recently, President Joe Biden actually tasked his new Secretary of Housing, of HUD, because we know that Ben Cardin has been gone. That was under a conservative administration, and he had no damn clue as to what he was doing. And in some
No, he
cases,
did not. He was okay. So that's just like me telling him, well, wait a minute, hold up. Let me do brain surgery on you. But I work in housing. That didn't even that didn't even go together. You take a doctor and put him in housing. Where does a doctor deal with housing issues? How did that even make sense? And then JC, you said something that was very, very profound the other day. You said that and they don't want to loan to black people because we can't pay our bills. But you're the reason why we couldn't pay bills, because you never gave us the opportunity. You
correct.
paid us less than everybody else on purpose. You gave us the bare minimum, which you consider minimum wage, on purpose. So how can we, as black people, keep up with the Joneses if we don't even have a J.O. in Jones?
Right. Well, we saw in the documentary they were talking about how everything is connected to that intergenerational wealth, that those finances. So, for instance, if you were able to get a home, most likely you would also use the equity in that home to send your children to college. And during that whole push of mortgages during FDR, what was interesting was that white people sent more of their children to college for the first time than ever during that time period of 1930s, 1940s, and 1950s, because they were using the equity of these homes to send their children to college. Not only that, but they also said that when you get in your retirement age, instead of you looking at your children taking care of you, you use the equity in your home to take care of you in your golden ages. And then when you finally pass, you leave intergenerational wealth. You leave that wealth of that home to your children. So there's a structure there by being a homeowner, by having those access to equity that allows you to empower your family for generations ahead. And then each generation basically repeats the cycle. You now have a home that was given to you by your family. You then take your children when it's time for them to go to college. You use the equity on your home to send them to a fine institution. And then you do the same thing when it comes to your golden age. So the cycle continues and repeats. And we see that many families that have homes like that, and even in some cases, they even empower themselves even more through that first home ownership. Like, for instance, in the Jewish community, something that's done very often in the Jewish community, because they have a home, they're able to purchase a second home or even a third home, an investment home. And a lot of times what they do is during bar mitzvah, when their children become a certain age, they actually say to them, here's this home. You can decide what you want to do with it.
But that's after they do what? That's after they give them the rite of passage.
Correct.
And
Correct.
after that rite of passage, they're handed a house.
Correct.
Even though
Or
they're not even old enough,
some sort of
they're not even
financial
old enough to have this house. They
correct,
give them a house.
correct, correct. And they
Our
pass
children, rented cars.
right. Well, we're giving them debt in many cases because we're
Correct.
already putting the bills in their names before they even get older. And then they find out that they got a BG&E or a Comcast bill, in their name when they do go get their first house or
Well,
first apartment.
Jason, that's what survival looks like. So
So
if I live in a house and I know that I'm going to get evicted if my lights is off, I'm gonna make sure you never see those lights off.
yes,
I'm gonna make
yes,
sure that those you when you ride by something, those lights are always on.
but Prometheus says that it's sad because we were never really taught about intergenerational wealth in schools, but that's done
That is
purposely.
correct.
That's done purposely. That's done on purpose. That's done because they don't want us to know the tools that empower as a community. I keep saying this all the time to folks that you know you have representation when you own a house. So if you
Correct.
have issues with the streets, your trash being picked up, public safety, you have issues with your schools, you have power. You have the ability to basically fight back and say,
Wait
hey,
a minute, but Jason, let's
I am
analyze that a little bit.
right.
Let's analyze that a little bit. So you have people in certain parts of the city that's saying that they want their trash picked up with this, that, and the third. But the ones in the neighborhoods that's majority of renters is the ones that's not getting their trash picked up versus all the homeowners over in Roland Park that get trash picked up twice a week.
But again,
So
they
we
have
got
power. They have power.
correct,
They have power
correct, because
because they own their homes.
they're the majority of homeowners. We
Correct.
have a lot of homeowners in the city, but we just don't outweigh the renters. So
Correct.
that's why they choose to ignore. That's why they choose to ignore us, because they know that the power is in the vote. And 9 times out of 10, these people don't vote. They don't own a house. We can't go up against them. So it's done on purpose. It's done on purpose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I keep telling folks that you have taxation with representation when you own your home. When you don't own your home, unfortunately, you don't have that power. Your taxation without representation, and there's a difference. So you can't complain about your neighborhoods. You can't complain about your schools. Your landlord, who's collecting your rent money, who's taking that money and putting it towards the property taxes, is living in another state, living in another county. In some cases,
Paying their taxes. That's why we get.
right,
That's why we
right,
get no respect.
right. In some cases, we find out that some of these landlords don't even live in the don't even live in the country. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unfortunately, because of these particular issues, we don't have representation because we're not paying, that property tax. But what's interesting is that two things I wanted to mention. One was that we're thinking that a lot of these issues happened in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, which some of it did, but some of these policies continued on even after the 1968 Fair Housing Act that was
It's still
passed.
going on, Jason. You know it's
Right,
still going on.
right. But again, a lot of that stuff was supposed to be corrected in reference to the 1968 Housing Act. And what's interesting is that just even as recent as 2000, and I'm bringing it up, even as recent as 2001, there was a lawsuit that was taking place where they sued all the mortgage companies. Matter of fact, the NAACP had filed a class action lawsuit charging systemic racism and discrimination on nearly half a dozen banks, including Wells Fargo. And one of the findings that they had found out was the perception of how they look at us and how they deal with us. So they were actually giving us subprime loans, basically to what they considered to be minority communities labeled as ghetto. They would label them as ghetto loans or minority customers. And they would basically say that these are those that basically, when they put this labeling on there, they would say that technically these were folks that were considered to be people that don't pay their bills. And they even, in one particular finding they found in an email, that basically they had called us mud people. They literally called us mud people. And they were giving us these subprime loans that had these high interest rates. And in many cases, not only just high interest rates, but in some cases, they were requiring more equity. They were requiring more of a down payment in reference to, the loans. So they were charging us more for the percentage of the loans, the interest percentage. They looked at us as mud people. They looked at us as, people that didn't pay our bills, and nobody has really tried to fix those issues. And even as far as 2010, when the market crashed, they had found out that many of these adjustable rate loans that they considered to be predatory loans, they were giving to black communities, knowing in some cases that they were high risk loans, knowing that in many cases they were going to come and snatch these homes up anyway from us. And although the banks, I keep telling folks, the banks don't really want to be in the business of owning homes, but in many cases, when you look at what took place, this was no different than blockbusting. So you give folks loans knowing that they can't handle the loans when it came to terms, and you had to pay the higher percentage rate interest. You gave them unreasonable expectations. You told them, hey, you can go get that $200,000 home, knowing that basically their income and everything showed that really and truly 120 was probably the max that they should have been able to obtain in reference to a housing loan. But they said, no, go get that 200,000, go get that $300,000 home. Then you
Well, I look at it the other way around. I think that they raised the prices because they knew that the person could not afford the $200,000 loan versus the 120 loan, and they made it really, really hard and difficult for them to be put in a neighborhood of substandard trying to buy a house.
No,
So if I'm paying,
you're right, you're forgetting what this happened. This was that's the first incident. That's the incident that happened in 2001 during that era. When we had the market crash in 2008, you didn't even, in some cases, you could forge your papers. In some cases, you didn't even have to submit legal documents. And you would be able to get a loan at 200, 300,000. And again, they found out that a large bulk of these loans went to folks of color, knowing that in many cases, they didn't meet the credit worthiness. But what they were doing was just pushing out those loans, not again. And most folks didn't realize what was getting ready to go down in reference to these subprime loans, in reference to these adjustable rate loans. When it finally went down in 2008, and they found out what these banks were doing, and what Freddie Mac and some of these other organizations were doing at the time, Countrywide and things like that. When the belly, finally bust, from all the fat that they were getting in the process, most of these folks were left or in foreclosure. Many of these homes got taken back in these neighborhoods. Now, yes, I would definitely agree with you that the real estate brokers jacked up and comped up the prices of the homes. Those homes that probably were only worth 150,000, were being paid for 200,000, 200,000 and more. But that's because the banks were willing to say, hey, go get you that $200,000 home. And the real estate people knew that, hey, this is a perfect opportunity to sell your house at this price, because the banks are going to go ahead and approve the loan, even if you weren't credit worthy or not. And unfortunately, the whole market crashed on them. Many folks were left with foreclosed homes in the process and lost their homes. And they found out that a lot of urban cities, we lost that ability to kind of reclaim and hold on to those communities or strengthen those communities, because now you got neighborhood after neighborhood being foreclosed on. I saw so many houses on foreclosure when we were looking at buying a home. I saw so many houses in foreclosure just on the east side of Baltimore City because people had defaulted on their loan because they couldn't afford it. Once the rate got jacked up and they moved from, they would give you a 5%, 4% interest loan. So your loan would start off at $800, $900. But when it came up to term in 4 or 5 years, and now you got to pay the term of the loan, which is normally 15%, 14% was the rate that they were to jack it up to. Many of these folks foreclosed on it. Now, what you were supposed to do with a variable rate loan, you were supposed to go get another loan in time and flip out that loan. Go get a second mortgage, get you a fixed rate mortgage if you could afford it. But because the market had crashed, most folks didn't qualify based on the new restrictions, based on the tougher standards. Most folks didn't qualify for a fixed rate loan. So you had all these people sitting there with these balloon loans. Your mortgage went from $600, $700, $800 a month. You're now paying, $1,800 for a mortgage. And most folks couldn't afford that. And they found out that a lot of these banks knew that. So this was almost like they were.
But I have a question for you, Jay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You froze up a little bit. You're freezing up there. Move around, move around, move around. You're freezing up. You're freezing up. All right, now you're good. You're good.
I said, how many people in black leadership knew this? And they chose not to sit and do nothing for the people. They chose to sit silent. Because we also know that banks and everybody else invest in our candidates. So how many of them knew this and just chose to let their silence be consent and they turned a blind eye?
Mm-hmm. Or how many of them did something after they were seeing these neighborhoods were starting to be lost, where we made some gains, we made some strides. How many of them stepped up to make sure that folks could be, could have their homes protected and safe, and they didn't have to get out in the streets? We went to several demonstrations during that time with people that were being put out of their homes that were trying their best to negotiate with the banks, and the banks didn't want to hear it. They were trying to negotiate with the banks to get the loan put back into at least some sort of fixed rate
Right,
loan.
because their job is not to save it. Their job is to collect the hundreds of $1,000s they received on one house and to resell that house for
Correct.
another 300,000 after I done put $175,000 in.
Correct. You remember that the whole process when a bank gives you a mortgage, they've already paid out someone in reference to the sale of the home. So that person's already been paid out. And because that person's been paid out, of course, the bank is not going to retract and say, "Oh no, we can't go back to square one." No, these were the terms that you signed for, which were predatory terms, and people didn't really understand the process.
And they're still doing it.
Right,
Excuse me. They're still doing it.
Right.
And then you wonder why the market looks the way that it do. But then, just like I said, again, if I want to be a homeowner. And my credit is not what you say should be, because we know when a black child is born.
You're breaking up again. This check your signal. Make sure you got full bars and I'll give you an opportunity. Make sure you got full bars. All right, while I'm waiting for you to come back, Yolanda, because you froze up. While I'm waiting for you to come back. So you have these crimes of the past. You have the meltdown, of the mortgage industry, the banks and stuff. And even now, you see that some banks have decided not to even get involved in the business anymore. They're saying that some of the Wells Fargo and a few of the other banks are not even getting involved anymore in reference to lending, especially in Baltimore. I think Wells Fargo has pulled completely out of the mortgage business in Baltimore. So that I find that interesting. But just recently, Biden has been looking at trying to address some of those indiscretions, those crimes, technically, really, truly, they're crimes on Black and brown people and poor white people. But they're looking at trying to kind of change that through his secretary, his new secretary of HUD, because HUD was responsible. If you go look at the documentaries, and you'll see that HUD was very much responsible in reference to the predatory practices and allowing, and in some cases, the covenances and the redlining of communities, not just here. I mean, there's stories in Minneapolis, there's stories in Detroit, there's stories in Chicago, there's stories in Philadelphia in reference to how these banks basically worked at the time when FDR had put that federally insured backed mortgage policy in place, how many neighborhoods used that to basically redline and keep Black and brown folks out from certain communities. And so recently, Biden has tasked his new HUD secretary, Marcia Fudd, to look at these inequities, to look at these past indiscretions, and to come up with some forward policies in reference to transforming home ownership, especially in the Black and brown community. And Yolanda, I'm going to ask you this question as we wrap up our last little 15 minutes here. What do you think these policies should be? Because in some cases, you may task someone with trying to correct some crimes, but if that person truly doesn't understand the impact of it, although she may be a black woman, Marsha Fudd is a black woman, she may not understand truly the impact of the intergenerational wealth, especially in a city like Baltimore City, had what has taken place. What do you think the repair should be? Because again, that's one of the steps of atonement that Minister Farrakhan talks about, is that you have to have reconciliation and restoration. That's number 7. But what would that reconciliation and that restoration look like? Well, I've lost her again. I apologize, family. I'm going to throw that out there. Again, I see there's a few people that are watching. I'm going to ask this question. And even if you're watching this video at a later time, what do you think that reconciliation and that restoration should look like? So, Yolanda, hopefully you're back with me. Unmute yourself. If you can, please unmute yourself. So the question was, because one of the steps to atonement that Minister Farrakhan put out there was number 7, reconciliation and restoration. So what would that reconciliation and that restoration look like? Because President Biden has tasked his secretary, Marsha Fudd of HUD, to look at reconciliation. But I don't think that they have a clue, and I don't think they're going to put a strong enough policy to even fix the issues of past indiscretion, that has taken place in reference to housing. And I don't think that they're going to be able to really put something forward with any real teeth. But what do you think reconciliation should look like? And let me
Thing is, Jason, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so the thing is, Jason, is that when we the same thing that Louis Farrakhan said is the same thing that we was looking at, and when they said that when we about reparations, they're basically the same thing. Call me back. Finish talking, Jason.
Right. So
Yeah,
again, what do you think that reconciliation and that restoration? So that's step number 7. Because again,
right,
if you're admitting the wrong, and Biden has admitted the wrong, and he's tasked someone to point out the
it's
wrong.
called reparations. They have to pay reparations.
Right. But is the federal government in a position, do you think, to implement reparations, and what would that reparations be?
How do they not have it to implement reparations when we're paying trillions of dollars for overseas wars? Make it make sense. I didn't say millions of dollars or billions of dollars. I said trillions of dollars just went to Ukraine. And they're still trying to get another $4 trillion over into Ukraine. And then if this other war do whatever they said it's going to do, then how many trillions of dollars is going to go to them? And then it still leave us with higher taxes because now all this money has to be replenished.
Correct. And the debt ceiling in this country continues to rise.
Correct.
I can only imagine what the debt ceiling currently is. They actually have a debt ceiling clock that actually tells you what the national debt is and what the contribution is to everyone. So it is currently at 33, I want to say that is $1 trillion. So the national debt is $33 trillion. And
right.
and
so if you take that,
what the debt is to each taxpayer, according to this, is $258,000 is what each particular taxpayer is responsible for. And the debt ceiling continues to go up in the debt clock. So it's not going downwards. It keeps going upwards. So according to this, we spent, it says the latest budget items we're spending in reference to defense and war. We're spending $796 billion in reference to, $796, that is $1 trillion in reference to war and defense. And then, they have Social Security, Medicaid, and stuff like that. But Yolanda, it's saying, and let me bring you back in because you keep dropping out for some
I don't know what's wrong with my phone. I just keep dropping out I don't know.
You gotta watch your signal. Gotta watch your bars. How many bars you got?
I have.
I was saying that according to the national debt clock, it also shows basically how much money is being spent on defense and war. The latest budget items, it says. According to the debt clock, it's saying that we're spending 796 billion. I mean, no, sorry, trillion. Trillion. There's three commas there. So you got the first category is millions, billions. I'm sorry, first category is tens of hundreds of thousands,
Jason, we know the category. Stop
hundreds
it.
of billions, and hundreds of trillions. So we said 796 trillion. Trillion.
Is that your
I mean,
phone?
imagine what we could do. Imagine what we could do with all that money.
Exactly. How many?
Imagine what we could do with all that money.
How many cities and counties we can save in Maryland? I mean, in our United States. Can you push your button? How many trillion? How many people can we save with that? You're talking about saving people across the seas when nobody's here to save us. It doesn't make sense that you're willing to take care of other countries when nobody is taking care of the people in this country. It doesn't make sense for a city to take care of everybody else and don't take care of the ones who built everything for this land. It does not make sense. Make it make some type of sense.
Correct.
Why are we still willing to do this? And just like we had the conversation about war yesterday, no black person should go to nobody's war and fight for a country that never fought for you.
Correct. We got money for the poor, but don't have money for the poor.
No, you got money for war.
As Tupac would say.
You said poor and poor. It's war.
I said we have money for war, but we don't have money for the poor. I promise you
that's not what you said. You said we got money for the poor, but can't feed the poor.
No, I said war.
Well, I'm gonna need you to play that back when we get off. I'm gonna need you to rewind that back.
I said the word war. Stop arguing.
I promise you didn't. Panethia, what did he just say?
I said war. I said we got money for war, but we don't have money for the poor.
No, that's not what you said. You
said we got money
for
my
poor.
Lips. Okay.
I promise you. Panethia, if you watching, can you please tell Jason what he just said?
That's that raggedy speaker.
Oh, my speaker. No, sir. No, sir.
Yeah.
We have the money to build.
See? And he said poor. See?
Who?
Yolanda said it. I mean, Panethia said it. Thank you, Panethia. Thank you so much. She said, I said poor.
You did say poor, but you said poor twice.
I didn't say poor twice.
You did.
You listening? No, it didn't. It was the lazy way. It was the lazy way that I said it. Look,
when we get off, see, and now, Panethia, now, you know, you just out there fibbing for Jason. But Jason said we got money for poor, but can't feed the poor.
No, I said we got money for war. I know what I said.
I promise
I was looking directly at. Wow. We're not gonna get into this.
Jason, you said poor. Exactly. You didn't say war.
I said poor. Look now. Look. See?
No, she said you said poor. See?
I said war and poor. It might have sounded like
telling you what you just said.
We're gonna go back to the videotape. Like Marvin Alberts. You know, we're gonna go to the videotape. All right. So
absolutely.
But
and I want to put a bet on this.
Look, as we wrap up, and the Panethia is still chiming in. But Tupac said, I know what Tupac said.
Exactly, but that ain't what you said.
Okay. We're gonna leave it at next week. We're gonna come on and we're gonna tell you who won the debate. All right. I know I said war.
Okay, no.
I said we got money for war, but don't have money for the poor.
No. So we're gonna put a little wager on this, Jason. We're putting a wager on this one. No. You gotta pay. You gotta pay. So what is your wager?
Huh?
What is your wager?
I bet you your favorite soda pop.
My favorite tennis?
Your favorite tennis. Look. Everybody who knows Yolanda knows that she's a sneaker hound. So she loves sneakers. So
I'm gonna do that all day long.
look, she said Mayor won that bet. Okay,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna double check that. We're gonna go back to like I said, the
Just get
videotape,
my
like
tennis shoe money
Arm
ready.
Albert used to say.
Just
Let's
get my tennis shoe
rewind the
money ready.
videotape.
Just
So,
get my
fam,
tennis shoe money ready, Jason.
well, we got a last 5 minutes while we're wrapping up here. Yolanda, you have any last words? Because I know you have something very important coming up this Friday. And I know that you want folks to just come out and show support. And can you let us know exactly what this event is?
No, I want you to say it. It sounds better when you say it. It makes me blush. It makes me blush.
So what you really want though, family. So I do a lot of voiceovers for Radio 1. What she really wants me to do is kind of do it in my broadcasting voice, like, it was a cold, dark winter night. Like she wants.
Can you read the flyer? Can you read the flyer like that?
She wants me to do my movie. I don't even have a copy of the flyer. See, that's how you do.
I'm great. Send it to you right now.
See, I don't even have a copy of the flyer.
Say
See,
less.
that's how you do. That's how you do me.
Say less.
Do you even have the flyer on our group chat? Like, no, yes, no.
Yes, it's on there. But here you go. There you go.
She wants me to do my movie voice. It was a cold, dark winter night.
Put it up so you can read it.
Okay. Where did you send it to?
Your phone.
So family, it's just great. It's just with great pride and great excitement, to really make this announcement. So after years of having a city that has been having more, having one portion of the people in mind, time to move into a new era for all. We're going to announce a revolutionary change. Special guest, citywide, and Gold Stars Marching Band, October 20th. This October 20th, Friday at 4
Wait,
p.m.
can I get the one like you said with the music in the background with all the hype in it?
Coming soon to a city near you.
No,
it's with great excitement, and I'm going to do this in a voice that again really and truly represents who you are, with respect and dignity. Family is just with great respect and great excitement to really announce the announcement of Yolanda Pulley running for mayor of Baltimore City, the Peopletician, someone who, again, is a revolutionary sister and is going to bring, well, not with that noise you're going to bring revolutionary change. Don't do that again. Mute yourself.
I thought I was on me.
Mute yourself. Mute yourself. No, but again,
that was a piece of ice.
It's with great excitement, again, to really announce the announcement of Yolanda Pulley running for mayor of Baltimore City. This is going to be a mayor with an open door to the community, who's going to listen to the community. She has some great things that are coming up in reference to transformative change in the city. She is not the status quo. She is not for the special interest. I'm telling you that this is a true woman of God, a true woman of the people. And again, if she gets in this position, if you allow her to get into this position, you are going to see real leadership, real transformative change in the city. And we're asking for your support. If you want to come out, if you don't want to do the walk, we're starting at Bloom Street in the historic Penn North community where the Freddie Gray uprising took place. And I tell you that to me, an uprising is just a revolution, a failed revolution. But these folks want to have a revolution in their community. And this is a revolutionary woman that is coming to make her announcement in that community and looking at bringing real transformative change to the whole city, and not represent the special interest or the status quo. So we would like to have you come out. The march starts on Bloom Street, and we will be marching to Simmons Memorial Baptist Church, which has been the church. I always say the little church that could. It's almost kind of like the little engine that could. It's the little church that could. Family, this is a church that, again, has served the community way before Freddie Gray, during Freddie Gray, and continues to serve even after Freddie Gray. So understand, family, that we chose this location on purpose because this is one of the marginalized communities in our city. But we want folks to come out, show support. October 20th, this Friday, 4 p.m. If you want to meet us at Simmons Memorial Church, it's 601 Cumberland Street, right there, Cumberland and Pennsylvania Avenue. And just come out and show your support for this great, amazing queen that is going to bring City Hall to the people. And that's the best that I could present it to you. You know, she's going to bring City Hall to the people. So,
well, our time is up. We want to thank y'all so much for joining us. But our question should always be, what is it that we can do for our city, not what our city can do for us? Love you. Hope to see you Friday. If not, we'll see you next Monday. Love you. Bye-bye.